Welcome everyone to the RSP Film Room. We are at lucky number 110, and today I get a returning guest, which is one Joe Holka. Joe Holka works at 4for4.com. He works for fantasylabs.com, and you probably know him very well if you follow him on Twitter for Rushing Expectation, which is a relatively new, a year old concept that he's come out with where he studies running back play using a lot of numbers that he's been inspired by some other folks that we've had on here as guests on the internet. Joe does some really fine work. You should definitely follow him on the Twitter account that I have listed here that will be on the bottom of the screen throughout the show. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. It's always nice to come and talk running backs with you, watch a little bit of film. It's always nice for me in general because I'm probably more new to it, definitely than you. You've been doing it for quite a few years. You gave me tons of great feedback on rushing expectation from last year. So, really excited to dig into that for this upcoming season. And I think people will be pretty pleased with some of the changes we've made, but it's definitely kind of still got that feel. You mentioned someone else that's been on the show before. If anyone knows Matt Harmon, I'm sure you guys know him very well. He's probably been on the show multiple times. It's kind of my version of his reception perception, but for running backs. So it's pretty exciting. I'm excited to kind of dive into this year's class, see kind of how things go 2 years out now.
Well, Joe definitely works hard at his craft with what he's doing, and it's really fine work. So I definitely recommend you checking out Expectation, and this is going to be fun. We're all learning here, so this is really what the RSP Film Room is about. We're going to check out Aaron Jones today, the UTEP running back, who is a big time sleeper on a lot of people's boards, at least in our internet draft analyst community. And so we're going to check out a couple of his games and some separated highlights here. We've got 22 plays, as many of you know who are subscribers. I assign homework to each of our guests now, who are providing film clips of things that they think are really notable about a player's game, and then I add a few in of my own. And that's what we're going to look at. We're going to keep things in slow motion and talk about what we see, look at plays over and over again, and just kind of give you a viewpoint of them from a technical standpoint, conceptual standpoint, as well as athletically, and just talk about the game of football as a whole as it applies to what we're seeing on the field here. So I'm going to share the screen with Joe, make sure that he can see everything that he needs to see. And let's see, pull this up. And I think we are good to go here. Does that look good to
Yeah,
you?
looks good.
Okay, good. Then we're going to get started. And this is not the first play. This is like the eighth play. So let's go ahead and pull up the first one here. And Joe did a lot of the work that he decided to do was from the Texas game. Why was that? Why'd you choose Texas?
It was kind of the first one I saw when I brought up kind of the draft breakdown here. I just thought it was a good example. I went through and I was able to get a lot of the things that you asked for, so I figured it'd at least be a good place to start.
Yeah, and I think it is, and especially because you're looking at a lot of projectable NFL athletes on the
Mhm.
defense for Texas. Whether even if the technical or conceptual skills may not be there for a lot of these defenders, you're seeing some pretty good athletes on the field that Jones is going to have to face, and you know that UTEP's offensive line doesn't usually generate some big time names. So you're seeing a player who may even be facing a defense that in some respects may overmatch his offense.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's something I don't run into as much because I'm just charting NFL players. So that's probably something that you take into account quite a bit with the RSP then, as far as who they're playing, and since there's such a big discrepancy between the top end defenses and the bottom end ones in college, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there can be. I think that I tend to look at things. It's interesting. I look at things more from a one-on-one standpoint. So, I look at how the defensive athletes deal with the offensive athletes. But I think it is notable that if you see a team overmatching the offense based on lots of penetration behind the line of
Yep.
scrimmage, then it is something very worth noting. But it's something that you'll see bear out on the grade based on really if you're looking at the right things. So
Sure.
that's what we're going to do today is hopefully look at some of the good things that we have here from Mr. Jones, and we're going to start with this one right here. Let's give it a first look.
Just that acceleration right away.
Yeah, and I can see how you would note that immediately. I mean,
Mhm.
That's a very notable part of his game, especially when you look at his times in the combine. He had some of the best. He had one of the best 20 shuttles of the running backs.
Yeah, definitely not surprised. Kind of beats that linebacker right away there and just is gone.
Yeah, I mean the safety even is surprised at the angle that he has to take
Hmm.
because you see the safety coming downhill and
Yeah.
he's flattened out and thinks I've got him, and it's just I mean Jones just blows by him.
Yeah, he's got what, a 2, 3 yard lead the entire rest of the way. I don't think the guy ever comes close to really catching him.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice crease, and one of the things I like that you'll see often with Jones is watch that left hand kind of just swat past, even though he's just swatting through his own offensive lineman. He's very active with his free hand.
Hmm. You like to see his him carrying it in the right hand and the right arm then, so he can use his kind of left arm, like what you're saying, kind of
Yeah,
be active.
yeah. I mean, I like it. I like it here because, yeah, I mean, I like it here, and really, he's dealing mostly from the early part with this penetration up the middle, and it's
Hmm.
all on the left side. So I don't mind that he's using the right arm, and he's using the sideline arm here. Now, would it be great if he could switch it here? Maybe, but the fact that he's going to beat this cornerback with his
Yeah.
speed tells you he's pretty confident in how fast he is, and he is like a low 4.4 athlete. So you're talking about a guy with elite speed at the running back position. So lots to see from this play. It's a really great example to start this
Yeah,
off
start with a
with.
touchdown, I guess.
Yeah. So let's watch him. Let's watch him here from the pistol. And what do you like about this play, Joe?
I think that he does a good job of kind of being patient. I think as he approaches the line, trying to wait for that hole to kind of open up, but then still taking what's been given. I think that there's definitely some running backs, at least that I've charted, that do a little too much behind the line sometimes, and there's definitely something to be said for an athlete that's willing to just kind of take those yards. And you see, he gets wrapped up here, but he almost breaks it.
Yeah. And there's some really good stop start movement here. I
Hmm.
mean, because look at where these defenders are where he stopped his feet.
Yep.
And he beats that 97 pretty well. Now, a defensive tackle in the NFL might be even quicker, and it might be tougher for him to do. But
Does he kind of swat through like with that free arm again? You see that, I guess,
yes,
back to back plays.
yeah, absolutely does, and get almost gets clean
Hmm.
of number 16 on that front. But he swats enough through to be able to get 2 yards
Yep.
more than he might have if he didn't get it. So yeah, very good. All right, moving forward, we're going to see. This is one of my first plays, and this is one of the things that I really like about Aaron Jones is his receiving skill. And I'm going to show this
Yeah.
repeatedly. But watch him up the seam. He's got that speed to beat the linebacker and the concentration to tip that ball. I mean, just to track it and tip it.
Wow. Looks like a wide receiver almost with that kind of concentration.
Yeah. And you might look at the hands and say, okay, well, it bounces off that backhand first.
Hmm.
But good enough concentration, and when you catch with your fingertips, which he does,
Hmm.
when the ball bounces off your fingertips, see how it doesn't bounce so wildly? It just kind of
Yes.
floats.
If it hits you in the palm, it's going to kind of be more violent then.
Yeah. So that's a good example of something I talk about a lot with wide receivers is, the fingertips versus the palm. And that's when you're a fingertips catcher, you're gonna get those easy little bounces, and that allows you to track it and catch it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because there wasn't as many plays kind of in the passing game in the Texas game, but it's something that I've heard people say a lot of good things about him.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot. I pulled up a lot of those because for exactly that reason. So there you go. You got the speed to get downfield, you got the ball tracking over the shoulder, and then you have the concentration and the good hands, the good fingertip type of catching. So let's move forward. What else we got here with them? All right, here's another Texas play.
Mhm.
There's that stiff arm
Yeah.
again, and the burst.
So would this kind of be an example of when you'd be okay with a guy kind of bouncing something outside if he approaches the line, he doesn't like what he sees, and still knows that he has kind of the speed to kind of get to the corner there?
Oh, absolutely. Because when you look at this play, what you're looking at is an inside zone play.
Hmm.
So this is the play is designed to go downhill. It is 1st and 10. You have good enough field position where he's not inside his own 20.
Hmm.
So I mean, this is the play where you have a chance to stretch out a little bit and create. And especially when he tries to go inside as his first
Yeah.
opportunity and he's hit. When you're hit by a defensive tackle at this point, and he sees the edge defender 53 with his helmet inside,
Yeah.
that's a logical read to go. The hole's outside,
You probably just see some daylight there, and yeah.
and then to outrun a linebacker and a smaller linebacker at that
Hmm.
to the edge. Once again, we're seeing that burst.
Yep.
So he turns a no gainer into about a 15-20 yard play here.
Definitely. That was probably one of my favorite plays in that game. It's just being able to see him do something like that.
Yeah, and this is something that's nice because when you watch this play, he's running with his eyes up.
Hmm.
He doesn't always do this, but the when he does, he's very dangerous because of that burst, and because he's not a guy that goes down easily. He's physical enough and active enough with that arm and his pad level that works out very well.
Yeah, I think it goes kind of to the fact that, I mean, his vision I thought was pretty decent, and that's kind of why his speed and acceleration almost works for him even better because he knows kind of the right times to take what he's been given. But I think he's kind of shown the ability to get outside when in situations like that. I think his vision kind of plays off it really well.
Absolutely, it's a great display of judgment. And here's another pass play. We're going to watch him just in case you wonder if, oh, does he just juggle balls or can he catch with his back to the football? And he does. Makes it very easy there.
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, again, match him up against a linebacker on a wheel route like this, and it's not going to be easy. Even though that linebackers are going to be faster at the NFL level.
You think they'll be able to get him into situations like that depending on where he's drafted?
Yeah, I do think so because when you see, this is a guy who's faster, quicker than Shane Vereen, and we saw Shane Vereen do this an awful lot.
Yeah.
So I think that we look at his speed and you see how it's translated against, Arkansas and, you know, other teams that may not,
Yeah.
UTSA, even though it's translated a variety of opponents here. So I think him getting downfield's fine. This is
Hmm.
another pass play that I like because shorter pass plays can be a little of underrated difficulty in terms of how you adjust to the ball. I like the fact that he sees on this play, I think, he sees the defender. He knows the defender's coming downhill on him
Yeah.
and he doesn't have a good gauge of it, so he catches it closer to his body
Hmm.
just to prevent being jarred. But again, the stiff arm and then the
Wow. Yeah.
good feet to just get upfield. And then I love this low pad level to get under
Not
the
just
hip.
going out of bounds there.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from his hips as far as when he catches the ball there? I hear you talk about hips quite a bit and their hip flexibility. Is that something that matters as far as like facing the quarterback, or do you want to be able to face the defender as much as you can, or what would you like to see there?
Yeah, on this play, this is more of a shallow route that just kind of bends out into like a short stem with a break outside. So
Hmm.
because he's playing against an off defender and he's not trying to beat the defender man on man, he doesn't really need to drop his hips here. It's more of just
Okay.
kind of a run and turn.
Okay.
I think what's most notable to me here is the pad level. Just
Hmm.
getting under that, and that gets him that extra yard or two to get that first down. It was
Yeah.
really nice on a 3rd and
Third and
12.
12.
So you see just a smart player who often beats the first point of contact. He can make the first man miss. And you just see here that, defensive, very often when we watch running backs here, this is what I love about this pad level.
Hmm.
Running backs, oftentimes when you watch them, they get tackled by cornerbacks and defensive backs who get lower in the pads.
Yeah.
And this guy got pretty low.
Yeah.
And for him to get lower like that just shows good flexibility on top of that
Hmm.
and awareness. So this was one of my favorite plays I watched.
Yeah, I mean, I think even just we talk about even just success rate stuff with rushing expectation. Like, I really like to see running backs like this that like you can see their care level on third down. Like they really want to make a play for their team, and I think sometimes that's a little bit undervalued when we're kind of charting plays all day long, or even just looking at a full game. Like I really like to see this from guys that kind of show this effort level on third down.
Yeah, and it's definitely there. All right, so let's move on to our next one. And all right, we got another play from Arkansas. Let's see what I did, which one I picked here. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. This one's a combo of, again, the functional power and the agility. I like that he's reading the field. He sees the penetration coming up the middle. He makes that nice cutaway, but he also reads the crease coming inside and where his blocks are,
Yeah.
and he kind of spins in between. So, and he uses that arm again to lead with
Hmm.
that. So it's like, yeah, go ahead and grab my arm. Don't grab my body.
You see him do that with the other arm ever? It seems like it's mostly the left arm. Or is that pretty common, kind of at the college level to hold it in your right arm when you can?
Yeah, I mean, I think also it's just the side of the field that he's on right now. They're
Sure,
running a lot to the right side of the field, so
sure.
I think that's more of it than anything. And then just this is a linebacker grabbing on, and he's
Yeah,
able to spin off and get a few more. I mean, he gets 3 to 4 more yards on this
yeah.
play.
Oh yeah.
2, 3, yeah, about 2 to 3 more yards. So that's a nice play. It just shows you, the functional power, the footwork, the pad level, the use of the arm. And here's another pass play that I think showed more from an athletic standpoint to me.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah. So you got a guy who can really adjust the ball in the air.
Pretty nice throw too. I'm not much of a quarterback guy, but
Yeah. Let's see if we get a replay of it. We might not, because this is a highlight tape of some of his
Mhm.
stuff. But it was easy to find this game.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's happy. Did we get to? We do.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. And he's matched against the middle linebacker, so I mean it's not even fair.
Hmm.
But that ability to snatch the ball like that. Really
Yeah, you can
nice.
tell like what you said. He does catch with his fingertips, and
Yeah, good work.
so who was your player comp with Jones as far as the RSP?
It's a good question. Let me look that up real quick and see. Let's
I'm
see.
curious.
He is my player comp for him ranged between. Oh, that is my master list. Where are you, my man? All right, hold on. There he is. Um, I had him. I've heard Curtis Martin comparisons, which I kind of see, but I had Priest Holmes as kind of the high end
Hmm.
type of thing because he's quick. He's not really big, but he's versatile and a little more powerful than you'd expect.
Hmm.
And then I also had on the low end Jerome Harrison, who is a
Okay.
you remember Jerome then?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one I like. Again, that quickness to be able to bounce a play outside and see that opportunity where he's like, I'm quick enough, I can beat this player staying at home for the quarterback
Hmm.
and bounce it right under him. And then you see that burst again. So it's the footwork and the burst. Oops. Okay, there we go.
You think it's more his burst and acceleration that allows him to do that, or because we haven't seen a ton of his long speed outside of that first play, or do you think
Yeah,
he's got pretty comparable long speed as well?
yeah. I think it's both
Yeah.
because you don't extend past cornerbacks like that if you just have burst. And
Okay.
if you're a 4-4 athlete, I mean, if you run a 4.440 and a low 4.440,
Hmm.
yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good to go in the long range. This is a fast guy.
He did
So
some return stuff in college as well, right? I think there was one play in the Texas game, but that was it.
yeah, so I think this is one of the best catches I've seen of him that we're gonna get to watch, and this is against Rice that I've talked about a lot on the air in different places this year. You can see him downfield working.
Hmm.
This is kind of an end of the half play, but you see him get free.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, so you're seeing a guy who's confident enough to be able to pull the ball away, win the ball in the air. I mean, he has the advantage the whole time because this defender's got his back.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's difficult because with the defender's back to the quarterback, he's got to contend with a defender who's likely going to be more physical with him.
Yeah. I mean, he had a bunch of contact kind of early in that play as well that he kind of worked his way through.
Yeah. Yep. Early on. Let's go back and look at that. So there he is at the bottom, and just a good job tracking the quarterback and making sure that he can track the ball.
Hmm.
And he really times his leap well. You can see that he's thinking about right here, and then he takes another couple of steps before he does so.
That's something you're looking for, right? Try and catch it at your highest point.
Yeah. And then pull the ball away.
Hmm.
He's like trying to pull the ball and turn his body. So, yeah, tough play.
Hmm.
And this is why I think he's one of the better receiving prospects in this class. When you take a look at you see a lot of plays with his back to the ball and a lot of plays, and you see some plays where he wins the ball on difficult adjustments. So let's look at this one. Let me get it back to where it needs to be and put it at half speed here. All right, so here we go.
I think this was pass protection.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on his pass protection? Like, I've only saw a couple plays on it, but it didn't really impress me a whole lot for a guy that hopefully is going to be playing on some third downs.
Yeah, on this play, I actually think this was a screenplay that they were setting up,
Oh, okay.
and because you watch this man filter downfield, you see where the quarterback is looking, and 40 holds.
Okay, so he was going to try and break through there.
Yeah, he was trying to just kind of fake the funk and work into the side here, but you can see that a couple of these players got held up downfield
Okay,
before they
I
could
wasn't
get
sure if he was
downfield.
supposed to kind of stay home there and help out, and he just. But yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, because you can see this guy working downfield like that.
Hmm.
This was supposed to be timed as a screen. But
Okay,
I understand where you're coming from as a pass protector.
that
You
was one of
know,
the ones I guess wasn't too sure about that I wanted to talk to you about.
yeah, absolutely, and I get it because it's
I run into that situation all the time, kind of looking at pass protection in the NFL, and it's kind of a point where like I have to figure out if I want to make that a success or a fail, and those are the ones I'm still not quite clear on at times.
yeah, and I would say I saw instances from him as a blocker where I felt pretty good. Like I had him. Let me see where I had him as a blocker. Um, in terms of in terms of his blocking, I actually had him at a committee level tier, which is
Okay.
pretty good, meaning that I saw him stand up some linebackers and
Hmm.
defensive backs to a standoff. I've seen him read blitzes reasonably well, but he just had some improvable gaps. So he's probably not ready right away, but
Hmm.
within a year, I think he should be ready if he's applying himself. And if he's a quick learner, it might
Yeah.
even come this year.
Is that one of the things you see the most improvement from kind of the first to second year in the
Yes.
NFL?
Yes. First or second year, but it may even be longer than that, depending on if you don't get an opportunity to play a lot. So
Yeah,
if you're just, like Spencer Ware's a good
I was
example of a
just gonna bring
guy.
him up. Yep.
Yep.
I was just gonna say that you remember. I remember we talked about it before with Spencer, where that he had the willingness to stand in there, and once he kind of had a little bit more kind of practice and technique, that we could see him be a lot better pass protector. So
Yeah, because I think we were taping watching Brian Hill in our
yep.
last episode around the time Andy Reid was like, he needs to get better as a pass protector.
Yeah.
and he did.
Yep, exactly. We Everyone's saying he can't be effective in the passing game yet. He hadn't really had an opportunity to even show what he can do there. And you
Yeah,
said that you watched him quite a bit in college, and he was catching passes in college, if I kind of remember correctly. So
absolutely.
that was nice to see.
Yeah. So what's this play showing you that you like, or that you wonder about, or that
Yeah, like
it's
as far
notable?
as his balance, like what kind of, if someone slips like that, like how much? I know you try not to take just too much from one play, but did you ever really see any balance issues with him as you kind of worked your way through some games? Because he
Yeah,
almost could have broke a little bit more there if he wouldn't have slipped. But I don't want to hold too much against him.
yeah. I didn't, because I didn't see issues like that on a consistent basis. This
Okay.
just happened to be, but it's a very good point to ask and to bring up with one of these types of deals, because
Mhm.
yeah, you see it a lot. I didn't see it a lot with No Sean Marino when he was at UGA, but he
Mhm.
slipped a ton
Yeah.
at when he was with Denver early on in his career. So, some of that might be learning new footwork, reading new things, and if you're not completely working at the game at the level you could,
Mhm.
your eyes and feet may not be as integrated as they need to be.
Yeah,
And
it sounds like a lot of things like vision, stuff like that is almost more inept to the player, but things like footwork, pass protection, like those are kind of, I think it matters, like some things that you can legitimately improve on,
yeah,
kind of when you're looking at some of these guys.
yeah, and if you're not familiar with the blocking scheme, that can also cause you to slip because you're not anticipating certain things. And we also need to remember here, this was kind of unanticipated, because look at the penetration he's got. As soon as he gets the handoff,
Yeah.
there's a guy almost 4 yards into the backfield. So he
Hmm.
does make that first guy miss, but then he's dealing with a player flash here. He's trying to read this block. A slip can also be about being overwhelmed by what you see in front of you.
Yeah. What is a 3rd and 25 as well? Maybe he's trying to make a play.
Yeah, and he adjusts pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, good stuff. That's a good question. All right, so looking at this play, let's see what we have here. Let's put this half speed. See what we have.
So did he even have a chance here? Like that's when you kind of talked about that penetration there. We talked about this once with one of the other players too. Like how do you kind of value something like this where like he just doesn't really have a hole to go to clearly?
Yeah, I don't count it against him if I see it when I see how it all works. First, I look at the blocking scheme. I'm like, what are they trying to run here? They're
Hmm.
trying to run an inside zone. So this guy should easily be blocked on
Yeah,
this inside
I
zone.
don't understand where that guy was going.
Yeah, it just looks like that there was a miscommunication probably with what the play was supposed to be or what was supposed to happen. And
Okay.
I think what happened here is this. These two are supposed to double team to the linebacker. So it
Okay.
wasn't the guard that was missing here necessarily. It was the fact that, and it was probably either the quarterback's fault or someone along the line, because this tackle takes this blitzing edge defender when
Okay.
he's probably normally assigned to this defensive end, and
Hmm.
nobody picked up the defensive end.
Yep.
And most likely the quarterback either should have motioned this player inside
Hmm.
and had him block this edge guy, or they shouldn't have run the ball.
Yep. Makes
So,
sense.
yeah, so he's right here. He takes one step, and I think he's just looking to, like, maybe I can beat him through the crease,
Hmm.
get what I can, and that's basically it. So, yeah, I wouldn't blame him.
Sure.
Could he have done a little more? Maybe, but again, you're like, if he's taking on this outside guy who's blitzing from the edge, he's probably not going to try and bounce it to this edge.
Hmm.
So, really, everything he did was logical.
Okay.
All right, so let's see what we got over here. Okay, here's a play where I listed, I think he could run with his eyes a little better.
Okay.
And we're going to watch him try and do one of his spin moves here once he gets into the line of scrimmage, but watch him lower his head on this play. Right here. his eyes are still kind of up, but he's anticipating contact, and then he lowers it a good bit.
Hmm.
And when he does, he tries to spin off this, and he's wrapped by the second blitzer.
Okay.
And it's 2nd and 4. This is a play where it's kind of like you could see him maybe try to bounce a play like this outside. But I think because he lowered his pads here, he should have just driven and taken what he could get and keep a 3rd and 4 rather than make it a 3rd and 6.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a fine point. I wouldn't call this a, oh, he bounces too many plays outside, or oh,
Hmm.
he's too immature to play in the NFL at this point on a regular basis. This is
Hmm.
more of a, hey, this is more of a veteran saying to them, hey, look, if you're going to drop your pads, just drive.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. Just it matters kind of in those situations when he's bouncing it outside and kind of. I haven't seen him do this more than really once or twice. So
Me neither. But it
yeah,
was so it was kind of one of those that you go, all right, it's notable. Here's a fine point. Let's nitpick your game because once
yeah,
you get in the
exactly. Let's
NFL,
find one play and then hold it against you.
yeah, right. But it's one where it's worth going, okay, in these situations, you may see more of these in the NFL.
Hmm.
Keep that in mind. It's a more advanced point. There's that active stiff arm again, but
Yep.
let's see what we got that I can slow this down. I keep forgetting to do that. Slow it down,
He
buddy.
caught the ball kind of at waist level again. It looked like,
Yeah.
but
Yep, it's a low throw.
we'll throw. Yeah.
It's a nice bend, too, to get that low throw. Yeah, I mean, again, I particularly, I like the play. I like that he switched the ball to his left arm.
Hmm. Well, he breaks that first tackle and
Yeah.
just gets.
That's just a very good hit.
Yeah.
I mean, you get hit across the waist by a linebacker like that with force, and he just couldn't. Yeah, his stiff arm didn't do much there. All right, so moving forward, here's another play we got of him against Texas, and we're gonna see what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this one was a good example. I think he's got pretty good pace, kind of approaching the line. I think you can see kind of his decision making process, but he shows some decisiveness. But I think the pace, almost more than anything, on this play was pretty
Is
good.
Yeah, and I like the little jab step to the outside here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a hard jab step, and you see how that linebacker reacts over there and moves inside.
So
Watch
just
this.
something that subtle can open up enough for a couple more yards.
Yeah, Latainian Tomlinson used to do this to Ray Lewis on a consistent basis in games, and it sets up the block.
So you like seeing something like that? Then if you're looking past the line at the linebackers, almost just like setting them up from kind of a distance, like that's something that you kind of I don't even probably look for that enough.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, if I see a guy make a move like this, I want to see if what he's looking at and if what he's doing is setting up a block or setting up a defender at the second level. And that's an advanced trait.
Yes.
So the fact that he's showing this kind of advanced trait is a really nice thing.
Who would you say is one of the best active running backs as far as setting guys up from a distance like that?
Le'Veon Bell is good at
Okay.
that. Um, who else is really good at LaShawn McCoy?
Hmm.
Um, those guys, do that really, really well. I would say those are probably two guys that fit the bill.
Just kind of baiting those guys. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, watch that right foot,
Hmm.
and the hips turned.
You see, I mean, we talked about it last time I was on, but you see guys do this in hockey all the time. For those of you that don't know, I used to play professional college hockey, and so you'll see guys coming into the zone and just trying to get the defenseman to move their hips like that, and just a subtle movement to the outside for them to move their hips toward the outside, and then they can come inside quicker. And just if they get one step on him, it was just like he's been baiting him the whole time just to open his hips, and then it's over.
Yeah, it's a great point. And then watch the pad level's good. He squeezes under 35, gets a couple yards for that, gets to the close to the
Mhm.
50. So that's a nice play. A very good pick. Let's see. Now where else do we have him? All right, get him backed up in his own red area,
Mhm.
and it looks like a pretty stuffed box. Everything's pretty tight. Okay.
This is the one I think he fumbles this. I'm not sure if it gets overturned or not, but I was wondering about his hand placement here. Should he have been trying to carry that in the other arm?
No, I think this is a play when you run to the outside, you want the ball under the outside arm. Even with
Okay.
the pursuit here,
I guess that makes sense.
yeah, and it's kind of high and tight right there. I'm trying to remember. I think they overturned this play. I
So you're
remember
trying
this
to-
play. They overturned it.
okay.
But one of the things I really like is watch this downhill cut right there.
Mhm.
That's a smooth downhill. I mean, to beat this cornerback like this with that cut, that's some acceleration.
Yep. I mean, that's got to be his best or one of his best attributes, right? Is his acceleration.
Absolutely. I think what makes him so good is and so promising is his vision and acceleration combined. He's got good feet.
Hmm.
He understands. He really does understand. This it's just like one step and downhill. No wasted movement,
Yeah.
and he has very little wasted movement as a runner. His power is not the strength of his game, but it's functional,
Hmm.
and he is rugged enough, and he knows how to kind of use his power to his advantage in the way that Jamal Charles uses his power to his advantage. You know, it's kind of like let me be the first to make contact and spin off that or move off of it.
Hmm.
Now, the ball carriage needs to be better, and we see that for sure.
Yeah.
Even though he's down, one of the things that we see is okay, watch it one more time here. See how wide that elbow is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's got to stay
You,
tight. I mean,
you want that tighter.
yeah, even there, because you can just see this. You can see the stripe on the ball
Yeah.
as he lowers his head
That's
right
how
there.
one's going to come loose as far as just someone putting their helmet on the ball there.
Yeah, someone on the backside. If number nine were closer, someone can just punch that from the front or the back or the side. He can get punched out, and when you can see that stripe on the ball like that, and the elbows a
Yeah.
good foot away.
What did you see as far as his kind of type of thing on the other film that you watched from him? Was it an issue? Was it something that you think that is going to be a problem or no?
Looking at him, from his ball security. Let me see. I'm trying to remember
Mhm.
a
Oh,
lot
I
of
mean,
players to look through. Let me look
I'm
at this.
kidding.
I had him as a guy that could improve more.
Okay.
His he also averaged one fumble out of every 81 touches, which for me was a committee rate back. Someone
Okay.
who's you can get him on the field, but if he's going to have to shore that up. It's not extraordinarily low. I mean, guys like Donta Foreman were at
Mhm.
74. Dalvin Cook was at 63. Um, Joe Mixon was at 73. So it's better than those guys. It's a little better than Leonard Fournette's.
Yeah.
Or
I'd
Leonard
be
Fournette was slightly better, maybe a one carry better. So
I'd be curious to see what it was like as far as his progression through like his freshman year throughout like his last year in college. Cause I remember that was one thing we talked about with Amir Abdullah was, yeah, a
yeah,
lot of people were really worried about his ball security and fumbling, but it was something that he improved on quite a bit through college.
yeah,
Hopefully he can do that in the NFL as well.
yeah. But what's interesting about that is you look at Amir's fumble rate, and it hasn't been good for that first year, and
Yeah.
then so we need to see whether or not he's improved because
Mhm.
that may be another interesting theory for us to explore down the line is
Mhm.
do players after even though they improve from early in college to late in college, will you have to expect the same learning curve early in pro
Yeah,
and
exactly.
develop? And that's something that I wonder if the NFL has studied that at all because
I think the problem might be sample size more than anything because if someone starts fumbling early on in their career, like there's only so many opportunities they're going to have in those situations again. So
Yeah,
I mean, I really liked Abdullah. You know that you're one of the guys that loved him coming out of college, if I remember correctly. But
absolutely.
hopefully, we get to see more of him this year.
Yeah. All right, so moving forward, let's see what this play is. We got
I thought this was just another example of him kind of taking what was given. I mean, I think that there's probably a lot of guys that would have tried to bounce that outside, but he sees that guy and just takes what was there.
yeah. I think that's a good example that you just got mature play.
Mm-hmm.
And some people might thought should he bounce it to the left, or maybe even outside number 40,
Yeah.
but those are risky.
1st and 5, like maybe he just wants to get a few yards.
Yeah, and that's exactly, that's what we end up getting. So good. It's a very good example of that. So we get some kick return duty, eh?
Yeah, there's. I think this is the only play I saw, so that's why I was curious what you thought about that.
Let's give it a look.
Just so much speed.
Yeah, good speed. It's a nice decisive play. And if he's a late round pick, this may be something that someone's going to ask him to do
Mm-hmm.
early on in his career. Good ball protection. I mean, I like that. It's a conservative play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know, when we look at this, the only thing that you might see here is maybe he goes further outside
Okay.
and tries to hit a crease here, but I'm guessing. I don't think so. I think he hits the right crease. So, yeah, I think that's good.
Cool.
All right. Two left. Let's see what two we have here for Mr. Jones to finish this off. A very nice session about Aaron Jones with Mr. Joe Holka. So here we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I thought about this one. I think it was more that he just runs through one of those wraps again, kind of. I think he does a good job of working through contact from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think the pad level's there. You got a nice little jump cut,
Mm-hmm.
and he clearly reads the penetration here. You see this white helmet coming to
Yep.
the inside shoulder of this tackle.
And that's when he makes that cut.
Yeah. So it's a nice smart game. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is me. Okay, so
Okay.
this is one that I think is promising, and it's from the respect of his speed. I think this is a good display of speed and quickness all around. Even though it's against a team that you might not say churns out NFL prospects
Mm-hmm.
on a frequent basis, it's this ability right here to turn to the left and really get around. It's kind of similar to that play where he beats the safety
Mm-hmm.
on the first play that you showed for the touchdown.
Yep.
To start to your right hash and wind your way back all the way to the left flat and beat an angle of a safety coming downhill and then beat another defensive back up the field.
I think that's really interesting. The point that you made as far as like he can bend those really like kind of and not lose speed. So he's bending those angles. And I think there's some guys that are probably quicker in a straight line than bending those type of angles. And I think that he kind of doesn't lose as much speed as some guys that I've seen.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, because let's see where number 11 is. Or I think it's number 8 and number 11 we're going to look at here. These two,
Okay.
this guy and this guy. See 8 coming downhill pretty quick, and he completely destroys that angle. And then number 11 here, he's just too quick for. He was too quick
Yep.
for that guy.
Switches arms.
Yep, that's nice too. So you're seeing a back with a lot of complete skills. And one thing that we didn't see was really pass protection.
Yeah.
You don't see great power, but you see functional power, excellent speed, excellent burst, good decision making, mature decisions, very a variety of moves, spin move, jump cut, um,
His
being able to bend
adjustments to
runs.
passes I thought were really, really solid.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, what do you think about him when you see a player like this? Where
I
are
like
you
him.
at?
I picked him kind of for a reason because I knew that it was someone that a lot of people kind of are talking about as a sleeper. But I think that he probably does have the ability to be a 3 down back. I like his speed. I like his burst. I think the versatility is a big thing because that's just where the league's going. And then there's definitely some prospects that I think are better suited to be like a two down kind of thumper. But I gravitate personally to more towards these guys that can be active in the passing game just because I think that their ceilings are much higher.
Yeah, and I think that that's for sure. That's the safe bet right now with the way the league is going. And when you look at him, I mean, 208. This is a guy that might be able to gain another, 5 to 10 pounds. You might see him at 215 and still
Mm-hmm.
have that burst and enough burst and acceleration to be a big play threat. So, he's also a guy that we saw him a lot in zone here, a lot of inside zone, but you saw some toss plays. You saw a couple of pulling plays here. So he's got the speed to play in these gap style sets and hit a
Mm-hmm.
crease hard, kind of the way Chris Johnson really benefited from those types of things. But he's also got the creativity to be more of a Devonta Freeman kind of back who's quick and makes a couple of moves and makes you miss and can then earn yards that way. And that
Mm-hmm.
may not be a bad guy to compare him to, though I don't think he's as agile as Devonta Freeman. He doesn't show that as much, but he has way more speed than I think Freeman does.
Yeah. You were mentioned in the RSP when you were talking about him that you could see him kind of developing into like a Jalen Richard type role as far as if he can kind of improve on his route running and stuff like that. Do you think that he could have that kind of role, or is it just totally going to depend on where he falls?
I think he can have that role. I think the conservative bet for a lot of people who are interested in his development, especially fantasy owners, would be that he's more of a that at worst he's Jalen Richard type of player
Mhm.
who can give you that role. But I think he's got way more upside. I actually think Richard has a little more upside than that. But I would say that Jones has way more upside
Okay.
than just being a third down back. I think he actually has, um, you know, I think he has kind of Devonta Freeman kind of upside. The fact that you could rely on him and he could be a top five, top 10 runner in the league um, if he lands with the right team.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. It's if I've learned anything kind of since I started this, it's that guy can have a ton of talent, but he's still, I mean, that opportunity still matters so much more.
Yeah, it sure does, and it sure does. So that's what makes this all fascinating. And Joe, once again, great work. It was definitely good having you on the show. And if you want to check out more of Joe's work, check him out at 4for4 at Fantasy Labs, and stay tuned for his rushing expectation projects that he does annually now. This is in year number 2. Really good work. Definitely recommend it. Follow him at the Twitter handle you see below you. And for Joe Holka, I'm Matt Waldman. Thanks again for joining us at the RSP Film Room. You can check out more at our YouTube channel, the RSP Film Room, as well as my blog, www.mattwaldmanrsp.com. You guys have a very good day.